Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
I'm Joshua.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Aaron.
We're back today, finishing off our discussion we began last week, where we're talking about some of our least favourite movies. Last week, Josh talked about Mortal Kombat Annihilation. That was the name of it, wasn't it, Josh?
Yes, it annihilated all expectations.
And Matt also went into his disappointment about The Greatest Showman.
Oh, the worst showman.
The worst showman. Oh, zinger.
Got him.
So, Aaron, what have you got for us today?
So, I have decided, as a big fan of Ninja Turtles, there are many films in the catalogue. One of my favourites being the original 1990s films with the Jim Henson Company making all the costumes. Very good. Today, I'll be kind of choosing technically two, because I kind of put them in the same package. And that's the Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtle movies starring Megan Fox as April O'Neil. God knows why. Michael Bay. So, I don't know, it's a tough one because they, similar to other things, potential is there, but, the Turtles were honestly, I think, brilliant. The personalities, the way they're on set, because they did mocap, and they used the actors' performances on set. So their personalities shone through, and they, at times, they seemed like they were actually four brothers, and teenagers at that, because they're 15 in the first movie. So I'll probably say the positives, the things I liked about the film first, before I get into the huge list of things I didn't like, is the Turtles were amazing. I honestly don't hate their look. I love that they are given, they've made armor out of junk, which I think is brilliant. The fact that they have, Matt and I watched this the other night, actually, and loved how they had different physicalities. Like Raphael is huge. Donatello...
Jacked.
Yeah, he's jacked. Donatello is kind of tall and skinny, and Mikey is kind of shorter, but still kind of stocky, and they kind of have their own, individual looks that fit their personalities, which I think work really well. I honestly love the Shredder in the first movie. They did him pretty well, considering they went through a bunch of changes due to backlash, finally making him a Japanese guy, because the original concept was to be a white dude named Eric Sachs, because the original name of the Shredder was Oroku Saki.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like the ultimate whitewashing of a character. Not only that, but they made
Major Kusanagi from Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Yes.
And along with that, they originally had the Foot Clan to be soldiers, like just straight up goons that had guns. And you can see the original ideas still present in the first movie. But don't get me wrong, the action scenes themselves are good because Michael Bay... It's really weird. Even though he's producer, you can still see the staples, even if it's like a different director. So I feel like he'd still put his foot in and be like, nah, I'm going to put my vision in certain areas.
Yeah.
Because you can tell it's a Michael Bay movie. If you've watched the Transformers movies, Ninja Turtles is just that. So at least the action scenes are fun to watch. But... here we go. The many mistakes they made. I'm not going to harp too much on Megan Fox because she's probably trying her best.
I think Megan Fox is a decent actor.
She has her moments. I've seen Jennifer's Body, bloody brilliant, amazing.
She's a good actress. You just picked for...
It's just when you think about it, you're like, okay, if you could cast anyone as April O'Neil, an iconic character from Ninja Turtles, you don't think of Megan Fox. No one thinks of Megan Fox.
Unless you're doing explicitly Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles, which this is.
Yeah, I suppose. It's the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles, so...
Yeah,
Megan
but for
Fox
your regular April O'Neil,
No,
she's not the first choice.
Someone softer.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's that?
Maybe.
Just cast Natalie Dormer as everything, really. Catwoman.
She'll be the Turtles as well. She'll be Shredder.
She was Marjorie Tyrell in Game of Thrones. You've seen it?
I actually haven't seen Game
Elementary, have you seen that?
Don't worry about it. Cut this.
Hunger Games.
Another thing I really, really wasn't enjoying, and again, he's a great actor, but Will Arnett plays a character called Vern, has no reason to be in the film. They eventually use him as kind of the guy to pin the defeat of Shredder on in the sequel, because no one can know the Turtles exist, so we'll make Vern the hero instead.
I like that. That was kind of interesting.
If you were to introduce him as a character in the first film, it makes sense, but he wasn't needed
Yeah.
in the first film. But because he was in the first film, they had to shoehorn him into the second. Not only that, they ruined Casey Jones.
Let's talk
Case-
about the massacre and murder of one Casey Jones.
Casey Jones, another iconic
Yeah, I mean,
character, you know.
explain this character.
In the comics, he was just a guy who wanted to take justice in his own hands.
He was a vigilante.
He has the mindset of a person who just watches too many action films and takes them all to heart and says, I could do that, I can do all that, and I'm going to do all that because there's so much crime in the streets and I'm going to do something about it.
Which is why Raphael, on a particularly bad day, finds him beaten on some guys. And it's a moment for Raphael to be like, oh, maybe I need to pull back.
There's this beautiful moment in the comics, right, where before he meets Casey, he literally nearly kills Mikey in a sparring session. And Leonardo says, Raph, get out of here and cool off. You know, you nearly killed Mikey, how dare you? And so Raph is like, oh, what have I done? You know, and then he sees Casey out on the town beating up just basic goons. And when we mean by beating up, Casey is on the verge of like killing these people as well. And because Raphael felt bad for nearly killing Mikey, he's trying to tell Casey, he's like, dude, you don't need to do it this way. And so then this great little relationship builds between the two characters. And that's not seen in the Michael Bay movie. Casey Jones is played by Stephen Amell, who is Oliver Queen in Arrow. Good actor. Again, good actor.
Would have been good for the real Casey Jones.
If he was actually the real Casey Jones, but they made him a cop for some reason. And he had this kind of through line where it's like, I'm a cop and someday I'm going to be a detective.
That was his motivation.
That was his motivation. He's like, I'm going to be a detective. And all the rest of the cops think he's a joke because he tried to explain they were like transporting the shredder to like a high security like prison. And, you know, obviously the Foot Clan break him out.
On motorbikes.
On motorbikes. And so he's... and the Turtles try to, you know, come in their battle shell, launching all their...
Manhole covers.
Manhole covers.
Giant nunchucks.
And, you know, it's like, oh, God. You know, the battle shell looks all right, but a bit too much. And then he tries to explain this to the cops. And he's like, yeah, these guys came out on motorbikes and they did all this stuff. And then this big garbage truck was launching manhole covers at us. And everyone's just like, you're crazy. You lost like the biggest criminal in the world, being the Shredder, apparently.
Yeah, because, you know, there's no other criminals.
There's no other criminals. I mean, they had, to be fair, they also kind of just threw in Bebop and Rocksteady.
And Baxter Stockman.
Oh, it was
Again,
Tyler Perry, was it?
Tyler Perry.
Classic from the 80s cartoon, you know, the big warthog and the big rhino.
Big rhino, yeah.
Mutants.
But they were just criminals in the truck with Shredder. And they were like, these are 3 of the biggest criminals in the city. And it's like, who are these? Bebop, like, to be fair, when Matt and I watched it, we were like, their relationship, Bebop and Rocksteady's relationship is quite wholesome.
Yeah, they're just really supportive of each other. It's really nice to watch.
It's just like, oh, they love each other. It's like the bromance that they've got is wholesome. But like...
Are the Turtles even in the second film?
I mean, I think they were.
No, they were. The character that wasn't really even in the film was Shredder and Krang. Krang was in 2 scenes. After Baxter Stockman, who's been working on this technology for so long, that apparently Krang knew about this whole time, after using a teleporting device to get Shredder out of the cops' clutches, Krang intercepts the teleportation signal and brings Shredder to his ship. But like all of a sudden, Krang just appears. There's no build up as to why Krang is here. It's only because of the technology that Dr. Baxter Stockman is using for his research. And Shredder's like, what is this? You know, and Krang's like, aha, Baxter Stockman has been using my technology, and now I'm going to take advantage of this situation to build my Technodrome. And
he sounds so stupid in the film. Oh yes, I'm going to build the Technodrome.
And they made him like this. I like the goofiness of the 80s cartoon because, you know, he's like, oh, I'm Krang.
Yeah.
And it's stupid. But
He's a brain.
like a robotic casing, essentially. The first time you see any of these creatures in the comics is that it's like you see multiple of them. And it's not just Krang. Krang is just one of these creatures. But, like, they focused on Krang so much and they had to, like, make this stupid joke before the camera cut to the next scene of the robot trying to shove Krang back into his little spot, and he doesn't fit. So he's like being like shoved in. He's like, "Come on, put me back in. And he's just like,
The movie has a crazy tone problem.
it's insane.
Like,
And
they go from, like, dick jokes to Krang's eyes popping out because he's getting squashed. It's like, what? Are you...
like
kids
overly
film?
cartoony.
Yeah,
It's trying to match the tone of the old show, but it's failing.
You can see what they were trying to do. Exactly. Like, they even brought back the actual Foot Clan to be ninjas in the second movie, which worked really well. Why didn't they do that in the first movie? I see that a lot of it is them making up for the mistakes they made in the first movie, but trying too hard.
It's like tonal whiplash.
Yeah, like April O'Neil in the first movie was dumb as hell. Like, really dumb. And she's supposed to be, in the comics, she was Baxter Stockman's assistant, right? And then they just make her straight away a news reporter, because that's what people know her for.
Yeah.
And then in the second movie, she's doing disguises, espionage, and, sneaking into facilities and doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, she's very smart. I mean, things can happen in 2 years, I guess, because apparently the first and second movie are 2 years apart.
Well, I mean, in real life as well, the studio realised they made a mistake and, fucking changed it.
That's an issue. Like, you watch the first film and the second film, and they feel like different franchises almost. The tone is very different. I mean, even like the cosmetic things, like the foot soldiers suddenly being ninjas and the Shredder being a different actor. Yeah, they just recast the Shredder.
Yeah, they did.
Well,
in the first movie, he was this he was in shadow. He was this dramatic, imposing villain. You first see him sparring with a couple of his, foot soldiers. And, he's tied up by, like, really strong rope. And he just beats them with his hands tied behind his back, snaps the rope and just stands up. He's this tall dude. And he's bald. He's got scars all over his face you can only just manage in the shadows. And then in the second movie, all of a sudden he has a lot less scars. He's got, like, a few scars here and there.
Yeah.
But he's got, like, slick back hair and, like, a goatee.
I think he would have made, like, a good Shredder, that dude. The second one,
Again, if it was
consistent.
If it was consistent. And it's just frustrating because as a huge fan of Ninja Turtles, to see something like that, you finally getting a big budget blockbuster being made. The Turtles were originally going to be aliens. That was like a concept idea. And they kind of made fun of that in the second movie where, like, Casey Jones meets them for the first time. It's like, you're aliens, you're going to eat us. And then Mikey and Raph kind of play on that. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're aliens, and we've been sent down to eat your family. and it's like, it's very funny.
In the first
little
film,
moments.
Doesn't it reveal that the turtles actually belonged to April when she was a kid? And she, like, flushed them down.
and Splinter.
And Splinter.
Right.
So April was the daughter, like, her father worked with Eric Sachs on, like, this thing that they made. Like, they did a science project working in TCRI it was to cure something. It was like healing properties so that you could, like, boost your immune system very, like, increasingly. And so they tested on the four turtles and Splinter. And so they were, injecting them with these things over time until, the father figured out that Eric Sachs had an ulterior motive and was actually a bad guy working with the Foot Clan. And so the father then burns down the thing, and then April saves them and drops them in the sewer after the whole place burnt down. And so the thing that makes it even weirder is that, like, Mikey has, like, a weird, like, hard-on for April. To cut a long story short, I do enjoy the films purely from the Turtles themselves. I love watching their relationships and how they work together, because obviously on set, these four guys actually had this great collaboration and, like, brotherhood doing this sort of stuff, and it showed. And all the acting performances are good. There was no bad acting performance. Even Whoopi Goldberg, who was just there did a great performance, even though it was like getting a paycheck. It doesn't matter. It's just a shame when productions just don't think of the fans more and decide to make their own idea of what they want to make. And yeah, obviously, at least the Backlash got some things changed, which was nice. So something came out of it. We got a movie that has good action sequences. We got a movie that has the energy of a good Turtles movie, but just missed the mark on a few areas that kind of hurts me a bit.
You've all been sort of very positive in some ways about your films.
We've tried.
We tried. So
Royce is going to unleash a tidal wave of hatred.
They say don't judge a book by its cover, or a movie by its poster. And I'd heard positive things about this film. That it was subversive, that it said something about society. But I think the people who said that just wanted an excuse to look at Vanessa Hudgens in a bikini for 90 minutes. This is Spring Breakers. It came out a few years ago with Vanessa Hudgens, Selena Gomez, and James Franco. And the director wanted to make a film which was more about an aesthetic feel than actual story. The film begins with like a montage. It goes for like a good 5 minutes with a Skrillex song playing, and it's like spring break on a beach. There's like dancing college students, there's boobs flashing, there's drink and drugs, and not rock and roll, but there's dubstep. And
The future of rock and roll.
It's all just washed out and really unpleasant to look at. And it's like, it felt like, that trope of someone goes on holiday and it's like, oh, let me show you my holiday snaps. Let's sit down for 6 hours and go through 2,000 photos I took of fields.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Except it's about parties.
It's about parties, and it's like, sure, a party might be fun, but just watching photos or footage of parties, not actually partaking in the dancing and the drinking and all that stuff, is not fun.
Because I haven't seen this movie. I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah. Don't.
Yeah. So it's essentially just a bunch of clips, footage, and photos intercut
with a loose plot. I mean, the plot is these 4 girls. I mean, like Vanessa Hudgens, Selena Gomez. The other 2 I don't know. They're college girls and they don't have enough money to go on spring break, so they do the logical thing to get money, and they violently rob a store. Like they got balaclavas and guns, and they're like beating people up.
Jeez.
And waving guns around, and then it's pure like hedonism as they get to Florida and they start their spring break, and it's dancing and it's drinking. And I said it is just a clip show of them just doing this stuff, and then they meet James Franco's gangster called Alien, I believe, and he's
he's got the dreadlocks, he's got the weird
cornrow, he's got
tattoos
and reflective glasses and grill in his teeth.
Yeah, I think I have seen parts of this. Yeah,
so he's just, as a performance, I guess, it is something because
it's really something.
It's something, all right.
It feels like a real person, It's not like a character. He just sort of rambles and just, this is all my stuff. Check out my stuff. I'm loaded with stuff. And these girls, some of them they're into him immediately. And others are more hesitant, and like he takes them to a party, and apparently it was actually filmed in a really rough area with actual real nasty people there, like no extras. No. And like they were just nasty people, and like apparently Vanessa Hudgens, I think, actually freaked out because she was like, that dude's not an actor, he's actually making explicit gestures towards me.
Well, like you got people like James Franco, Selena Gomez, and like Vanessa Hudgens. They've done like actual films.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like thrust into this almost, dare I say, social experiment.
Yeah.
Of a film.
It actually does. Yeah.
Maybe it was.
It's like, hey, let's chuck some actors, make a basic film plot ish, and then put them amongst this terrible town.
Yeah, and Vanessa Hudgens' character is meant to be into it. She's like meant to be enjoying it, and Selena Gomez is actually like, oh no, I don't like this. Too shy.
It's the other way around.
It's just really, it feels like an adult film at times. Where it feels like he'd almost be there with a camera, and they're like ready to get on their knees
No.
It's like it's that kind of thing. There's like
it's like pushing the boundaries of like, if we can release this in cinemas, let's see how far we can take it.
It feels real. Like, it feels really...
When you started describing it, it sounded really funny. Just like that idea, oh, we're too poor to go on spring break, let's violently rob a store. That's really
Same.
funny.
It's like, it's almost sounded like a Point Break.
But it's called spring break.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then it was like, people robbing to fuel their leisure lifestyle.
Well, like there's a YouTube channel Wisecrack and like
Yeah,
a dude
I love
on
him.
that who bigs up this film all the time. So I thought maybe it's all right. Maybe I'll check it out. And I was just like, oh my god, this is horrible. And like you could say that there is something to say about society or whatever, because it's like these girls just go above and beyond being degenerates in the pursuit of happiness. We're probably about halfway through the film, just from my description. That's it's a relatively short film. It felt like it went for like 3 hours. And
Well, when you've got no proper pacing for something like that.
it is just so. But yeah, this guy, this gangster, just brings them into this world, and they're all, I think Selena Gomez's character has enough, and she goes home. But then she's like, almost like regretting it the second she's on the bus. But she's like, she wants to get out of there. But the other girls just go along with this guy's criminal lifestyle until another one of them gets shot, in a drive-by shooting, and she decides she's had enough, and she goes home. And the other two stick by him, and he's got this beef with this other gangster, and the film ends with them like rolling up to this guy's marina side mansion on a speedboat, and they pop out in their bikinis with balaclavas on their faces and guns in their hands, and James Franco's character gets like killed immediately. And they just storm the house, and it's just shots of them just murdering everyone inside the house in slow motion, and like the gangsters, they're women. And the most irritating thing was like, it is almost like dreamlike sometimes, because you just have montages of them in the pool or at the beach doing stuff to James Franco. And he's like, spring break forever. And no joke, that is just repeated ad nauseum throughout this film.
Jeez.
And he's like whispering in your ear. It's like, I hate ASMR already. But it's like this creepy ASMR where he's just like, he's going to violate you with his tongue. It's...
I wish you hadn't said that.
Yeah. I don't even know if I,
I
can
did
say it
plan
on the
on
radio.
eating lunch today, Royce.
That's the whole film. I mean, I can talk about how there is no nuance. I mean, there's attempted nuance. There's an attempt at feeling something, but it's just not fun. And I don't think there's enough substance in it to actually say anything about anything, really. I mean...
I really like the way you describe the start. That sounds like the start of an interesting film, but there does have to be commentary afterwards.
Yeah.
A lot of people can make up good concepts and ideas. It's just putting it to like actual practical.
This guy on YouTube just talks so highly about it, but then I looked at the reviews and it's like a 6 or something, or a 5 on IMDb.
Which guy from Wisecrack?
Jared.
Oh, of course.
What does he say about it? Why does he love it so much?
Well, he says it really is an examination of modern life, and I never went back to it, to his stuff, but he really bigged it up and said, like, no, we're serious. This isn't just a film with, girls in bikinis and drinking and drugs and all that. There is something deeper to it, honest.
Yeah, but there are ways that you can still tell that
It's-
without it. There's always has to be like hidden messages. It's like, this is actually really good because it means this is the path that our society has taken.
Yeah, it's a
It's
5.3
relatable.
on IMDb. Harmony Korine is the director. What else has he done? I mean, people talk about how like the Antwoord are maybe like trashy.
At least the Antwoord has personality.
Yeah, they're kind of a guilty pleasure, if you give yourself over to them. But this is just like, it's nonsensical. There is no plot, or there's a thin veiling, and it's like, oh, aren't we clever because we're now playing the monologue, the voiceover of Vanessa Hudgens that played at the beginning of the film, where you thought she was just talking about going to parties and just meeting new people and all that. But as it turns out, she's actually talking about, she's recontextualizing the violence which she's partaken in and the criminal behaviour. It's like, wow, aren't we so clever? We're so smart. We tricked you into thinking that it was about one thing, but it's actually about something else.
See, the more you describe it, the more I actually want to watch it.
I hate films that think they're clever. They'll try too hard to be clever, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, give it a watch. Or actually, no, don't give it a watch.
It's one of those things where, like, the way you're explaining it, when someone says, "Oh, you probably shouldn't watch this movie. It's actually trash," It's gonna make us want to watch it.
But it actually does sound kind of clever to me. I used to, for a long time, only really watch films that I thought my mum would like to watch. So, gratuitous violence and, nudity and stuff. I'm like, mum wouldn't like that, so I won't watch that. And, there's something in that, love your mum. But at the same time, since then I've grown to appreciate the artistic value of reality and things that people think about. If you put it in a movie and examine it, it is important. So not every movie with nudity is inherently lazy, and not every with violence is inherently gratuitous. A lot of them are. But I don't know. Like
It's not even a moral thing. I'm not like, oh, there's drink and violence, so it's bad. It's not like that. It's. I mean, I said you don't judge a book by its cover. You've gone and got the 4 girls in bikinis on the cover, and they're like standing there with the mugshot, plaques. So you think like, okay, this is going to be this. And then you get told, oh no, it's actually something much deeper than that. It's fantastic. And then you get to it, and it is just, it's an experience.
Quite surface level.
It's, like I said, it's not. It is more like the guy went for an experience. It's about getting emotions out of you, and it's just not pleasant emotions I got from it. And
I think that might have been the point.
Maybe.
I think so.
Who knows?
But
Maybe he wanted people to hate it.
yeah, I don't know. When I got told there was more to it, and then when I got to it, I'm like, oh, is this it? I expected something deep. It's sort of like with Joker, where I didn't like Joker.
whoa, hot take.
I was really looking forward to the Joker, and when I got to it, I was
One
just
of our
really
earlier episodes.
yeah.
It's the worst thing
Really-
when you're hyping it up in your brain,
Yeah.
only to get something that you actually don't enjoy, and then it makes the non-enjoyment even worse.
I think that's probably it. I mean, me describing it here, you know what you're going into now. And I mean, I'd read descriptions on Wikipedia, but you can't really communicate a tone just through words when it's such a visual and audio
That's true.
element.
That's true.
And yeah, it's...
Everything you've described has been a basic concept that could be clever, but maybe it's
Yeah.
not executed very well. And you can't explain that because it is an aesthetic experience.
Yeah, I'd have to show you it, but then, I mean, you might enjoy it because I've then set you up for it.
I'd have to show you, but you might enjoy it.
Don't threaten me with a good time, mate.
Thank you for listening to our ramble. It really was an experience, much like the Spring Breakers. If these films sound interesting, they might be good, but for us, they were not good experiences at all. Greatest Showman, Worst Showman, as you said. Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Annihilated Expectations, which was actually the tagline of the film for the poster.
God.
They really set themselves up for a fall, didn't
How
they?
prophetic.
Yeah.
And pathetic.
The Teetle Needle Deedle Teetles. The Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nita hurdles.
I accidentally sold Spring Breakers to all of you guys.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in it now.
Don't watch it. Watch it if you want. Anyway, this has been the Geeks Review. I'm Royce,
I'm Joshua.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Aaron.
and we'll be back next week. Bye for now.